Okay, here goes nothing. I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about the aftermath of a video I did around this time last year titled My Experience in Media So Far. First, I want to acknowledge that it wasn't a perfect video. After 5 years of holding all that in, I wanted to have my say about my experience. I was tired getting questions about my life, why it is the way it is today, why I'm not, quote unquote, further along in life. I wanted to point out as factually as possible and sticking to the events as I saw it happen, and really talking more about the structural, systemic issues that I saw as barriers for me. And since I know this isn't all about me, I wanted to put it out there so others could be informed, and so someone else doesn't have to go through some of the things I went through. So for the purposes of an update, I'm not going to rehash everything that was in that video. The short of it is I found it to be a mean, cruel, cutthroat, non-compassionate industry. I think that it hurts marginalized and vulnerable people the most. That's really mostly the point I was trying to get across. I just don't think that it was quite taken or understood in the way that I thought it might be. I feel I'm still having to provide the exact same answers, say why I'm still finding difficulty in my life because of these past events, and that even to this day, there's people that doubt my credibility, doubt my skill, look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. He's and I find that very hurtful. I really shouldn't say too much. I found it to be very challenging not only to make the video, but in the aftermath, it was still just as challenging or maybe worse. And I feel that way because the goal of the video was to make my arguments as airtight as possible and stick to the facts. As I said, I really wanted to tell the events as it was and try to be fair, but also really wanting to drive home what I was saying, what is my truth, the experience, and how that loss led to a very significant personal decline and health, mental health. Anyway, in that sense, I want to give credit to myself for being able to handle heavy subject matter as I did. And I wanted to do it in a way that was creative in some ways, as the artist that I am, the creative mind that I am. I really wanted to tell the truth. I did what I did, and I was prepared for the worst to happen, and pretty much the worst did happen. So pretty much immediately after doing that video, there was a handful of people that unfollowed, unfriended, blocked or deleted me, and those were mostly people that currently still work in the industry. And I still haven't heard from, well, certainly not anybody that was indicated, though I was very careful, or thought that I was being careful. But it didn't even matter if it was anybody that I was trying to refer to in that. Still, anyone that was a part of that period of my life, I haven't heard from them, and I don't expect to hear from them. I knew that people might be frustrated or upset by me opening up and just being honest. As I said, I was careful not to mention names or to be too specific and to remind viewers of the broader narrative I'm really trying to talk about, the systemic issues. I can understand why some would feel that I'm not following the rules, as in I'm not doing what I'm told to do, and he's not being quiet like we told him to do. I mean, I as far as I know, I don't have a gag order on my life experiences and what I would like to share after spending 5 years to really process what I'd been through. And that's kind of the way I've always gone through my life, is certainly taking the time and gaining insights and reflecting on my life. It's not about fixing, it's not about solving, it's not prescribing or recommending anything really, even though I know they have a lot of recommendations already. But I know, and what I gained in the aftermath, because I was unsure about it in the original video, is that they're not going to change. And I called it right, that they weren't looking for someone like me. I was foolish to pursue it as I did. I mean, I really do feel I wish I had made a better decision in that I can see the sort of cause and effect here, where I may have been in better shape. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's me thinking I wouldn't have had to go through that trauma, social trauma of not getting work in the industry right out the gate, and no one wanting to help, because it's that thing of do it on your own. But it's a paradox, because, well, I'm showing you I'm doing it on my own, and that doesn't work because it's a people business. So anyway, the trauma of trying and trying and trying and nothing's working, and the people that I think are supposed to be helping are just standing by idly and watching me as though it's a reality show and getting some kind of enjoyment from watching me suffer. Oh, okay, sorry. I need to stop for a sec. Oh, dear me. Just trying to tell you it as it is. I had what I would call a psychological injury. Part of the injury was that having all that not work, and the torture to this day of people asking about my life, why it's this way, and I say, well, I'm not really interested in doing anything else. I've always wanted to look into something media related, whether it was traditional media, legacy media, or new social media, because I love all that stuff. Even though I'm critical of it, just by nature of who I am, I don't really have much of an issue sharing my experience, as I said. And it felt like, and even doing this, it's like I'm the bad guy, or the black sheep. Blame him for why his life is so screwed up, Maybe you're right. Maybe it's all me. It's a very confusing situation. I find it to be, because clearly these ideas of a network or alumni, these other kind of things, colleagues, co-workers, that stuff just dissolved. And it's really like I was disillusioned with a lot of that, because it's just not the reality. And so I'm still trying to work through the trauma of everything that I've been through. It affects me every day. And that's only the one I'm willing to talk about. There is so much more to me, to my story, but what can I expect? by really sharing my experience. I would have thought that me saying I really suffered here and was hospitalized, this was a contributing factor that led me needing actually pretty heavy-duty types of therapy. I just thought that maybe somebody from that period of my life would have just maybe messaged to say, hey, are you okay? I just couldn't believe in the aftermath that I could really talk for hours and hours, and just, I don't hear from anybody. It's still true. I haven't talked to any of them for 5 to 6 years now. I haven't really seen any of them since. You know, that's supposed to be my network or my connections, but not just specifically, but just the industry as I know it in the place where I live. I call it, actually, you know what? I can't agree on the term of what to call my situation. I've talked to people that I love, my inner circle of my family and close friends that I still have, thankfully. Not all is lost there, but still certainly a much smaller circle. Do you call it discrimination? Do you call it getting blacklisted? Do you call it just an unfortunate event? Do you call it, oh, he's just crazy, he was stupid and lazy and he just didn't try enough? I don't know what the right term is, and I've thought about it. It's been analyzed. I've had that original video of me talking about my media experience has been analyzed by AI. I've asked it questions. I've used different AI tools to try to understand my situation. What do you really do when the thing you think you're supposed to do in life really isn't working? And because of that not working, that also screws up other areas in your life. So when I'm talking about these issues within my network and et cetera, well, that also contributes to other issues in terms of having a stable work life. And I have not had a stable work life for a long time. And I really tried my best and to work with what I have. I learned to not be a doormat, to stand up for myself, to not trust people as easily, or just not to be so naive. But as I was saying, I really, my purpose of doing that video and this really still is, my narrative here is airing caution to others that want to pursue media. You know, there's the expectation versus the reality. And unfortunately, the reality is a lot darker than even what I thought it was. I didn't know really what I was in for, and I didn't really have coping skills really to cope with what it was, what it still is. I was able to get through it. I can tell in hindsight is that it's obvious to me that there was a period where mentally and emotionally I was doing better than I am now. And as all the events kicked off this decade so far, I can see that my therapy was undone. Yeah, part of that was facing the trauma, workplace trauma. It's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. I felt totally blindsided by what happened and betrayed. Like I felt like I was lied to. Just my general view and feeling is that the majority of people in media are not sincere. They're not people you want to have lunch with. The majority of them, I find, don't have the sense of ethics and morals. It's just something that I don't think they have a sense of, and don't always understand it in a deeper, or sorry, rather an in-depth way, in a humane way. They're the kinds of people that, media people, media personnel, the whole culture as I see it is toxic. It's the kind of person that will pull out personal information from a person and basically take that information just for the purposes of, for themselves to make money or whatever, and tear that person down and push them to the curb. That to me is a type of torture, actually. It's like, why this whole culture that's saying, I don't care about you, I don't really care about you, and that lack of humanity and listening to people or having any patience, empathy for people. It's really, from my observations, it's so much carelessness and recklessness with people's stories, even for the general public, but even their own employees. It's like they just want the story, they just want the money, they just want the ratings, and they could care less if anything harmful happens to anybody. If somebody that works for them ends up 6 feet under, they're going to find someone else to do the job, of course. That's how industry works. They don't care if they're pushing you working 15 hours and such, and they're just going to keep doing that. And they're really not, I don't like to say this, but a lot of media people just don't show up. They don't really show up for other people in the industry. And then, of course, when something horrible happens, a tragedy, you see somebody in media or entertainment dies, you hear the commentary from celebrities or media folks, news people saying, I wish I had done something more, we should do a better job as an industry. And again, nothing really changes until the next tragedy. Yes, I could have been a better friend and all of that. I find that there's an emotional disconnect there. There's what they're saying, and then there's what they're actually doing, which is, well, you weren't really there, and that's a harsh truth. It hurts, but you weren't there. That's where the ideas of being supportive and helpful and, thinking about like universal values and code of conduct. Again, I have to stop myself because I realize that media was built to be harmful by those that originated television and film. And so what I said in the video, and I still think needs to happen, and in some way I think there will be a call for change, is that some of these things need to be looked into. The harmful practices in media, it's going to have to be investigated. Certainly in Canada, Canadians will want to ask for change because Canadians aren't still. I mean, my opinion hasn't really changed that much on media because I think even more Canadians feel they can't trust people in media. The lack of care is very apparent. It's like, I can see the policies on your website here, but when I'm seeing you on the television, you're not really doing that. And that's where the distrust comes in. And that's still my grievance, is that a lot of people working in media don't have the proper training and education, like as far as psychology and mental health. They claim to be, for mental health and helping mental health. Well, first of all, I'm not seeing you actively practicing things like empathy, patience, listening, genuinely, sincerely caring about the stories that you're telling with the clickbait titles and just out of touch style conversations that's really just media people talking to media people. So as I said in the video, and it's still true, in the aftermath of me opening up about my experience, is that they could do sensitivity training, they could do diversity, or very basic historical understanding of Black history, Indigenous history, LGBTQ plus history. Again, so they know what they're talking about when they're interacting with the public and people working in the industry. And here's what I learned. This is what I really learned, was that it's not that certainly it's not that they don't have access to information. It's not really that they can't quite grasp some of it. It's that they don't want to. That was a very hard pill for me to swallow, and ultimately why I just stopped or try to not consume. I always have a soft spot for media, but I had to stop consuming as much because I've learned that they don't want to change. They never had any intention. There isn't a willingness to learn or listen or anything. They just don't want to change. The focus is where it always is: ratings, the money. And of course, those at the top of the hierarchy, the executive producers and such, they really want to rake in that cash. They want their bonuses and all of that because they look down on the rest of the peasants at the bottom of the hierarchy, or the working class. It's like you need 100,000 followers to be considered for participating in the industry. Like, it's something like that. There is this part of industry that talks about people really as lesser than, unless if you hit these benchmarks. And really, if you are the type of personality or profile that they're looking for. And that to me is really, it's a complete dismissal of someone else's skills, their qualifications, their knowledge base. But I'm just saying the way I know it is. I know there are people that are very frustrated by me talking openly, because what I'm really doing is talking back to people in positions of power. I have spoken out before because I'm in a position to do so, as I said, because I lost everything. I have nothing to lose. I only wish there were others that had the courage to speak up. Some of them, they just may not even think as in depth as what I'm really talking about here, and to me is still scratching the surface. So I just wish that folks in media cared more about people than profit or a paycheck. And in order for them to get that paycheck or that funding, someone else's suffering is the story, and someone else's suffering is their paycheck. And that's really just how media is. It's constant watching the train wrecks, watching the circus, wanting the emotion of outrage and fear, and it's a lot of negativity, and in a way though that's very attractive to watch for whatever reason. Again, I'm saying it now because it's the same story. I'm trying to say that I personally believe that media can look at learning how to make well-being stories, really focusing more on humanity. I mean, it's just that you can't really escape the corporatization, the professionalism, the industrialization, all of that. It's so baked in, even when they're trying to do something that sounds, like it's a very human interest story, or that they're caring. It just comes off as insincere because that's the way that they've always done it, and move on to the next thing and not follow up. That's the way it is. And, I had to do the inner work to deal with my feelings of betrayal, resentment, embitterment, and the grief, all of that stuff. And as I said in that video, I do forgive. I forgive them because I do know how it is. I find that the environment, the culture there, it didn't work for me. I think in some capacity it can work with me, in that making a video or a show or movie, short film, does not have to be that difficult. So don't get me wrong that I'm a hater of media, that I'm this hypercritical and I'm judging and shaming that. Well, I was one that was shamed and humiliated. That's not what I'm trying to do. I love the medium of media, and I believe in freedom of the press. And it's important, I feel, that I say that. All I really would like is that people can think about the media they're consuming. That's a bit of a tough sell, I guess. It's like me saying, are you drinking ethically made coffee or something like that? Are you wearing ethically made pants? It's just, there's certain things that, like, I like to be informed. I watch all kinds of stuff. I like to get a sense of things you wouldn't believe I saw. And it's so I can have an understanding of people and, why is there this group of people saying this stuff? It reaches a point for me where I have to make decisions for myself and say, well, it's okay if I don't want to listen to that group for today. That's fine. I don't have to participate in such and such. So I'm holding space for me to preserve myself, to practice self-care, and to know my worth. I do know my worth in that, I don't want to go back to a set where there's the shame and humiliation and discriminatory practice, overwhelming stress and social trauma, or, it's just, if I know that about such and such a company, or just, well, a lot of the way these things work, it's unfortunate for me because I'm very much interested in writing, performing, editing. I like all this stuff, but if it's a set of contemptible people, why would I put myself through that? I say going through abuse for your work, for a paycheck, isn't a badge of honor. It's really something that doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I'm working independently, and I'm not really attached to legacy media or new media, social media. I am my own person. And I just don't see any use of going to a place where I'm thought of as a dishwasher and janitor for the rest of time, and really not wanting to pay me. I'm starting to rehash and repeat, so I'm gonna try to stop myself here, and I'm sorry. I'm still working through a lot of this stuff every day. I don't think that I sound as crazy or out to lunch as people may think I am. I've been through this experience that's extremely difficult. I think a lot of media people will end up probably in a very similar spot. As I said, once more automation, AI comes into the media industry, a lot of these people won't have jobs. They won't have opportunities. The media, as we know it, it's self-destructing, and that's because it just was the very basis of what it was for over 100 years. It just wasn't good. I'll put it that way. What else do I want to say? I want to say that I am funny, by the way. I do have a sense of humor. No, I know sometimes I sound very serious and I get into this heavy subject matter for whatever reason. But actually, no, I do have a sense of humor, and I can work with people. I am open to collaboration. A lot of those opportunities have gotten by me. Even before I spoke up about the experience of psychological abuse and all the things that I've talked about, I still wasn't able to really collaborate or work with people. And again, that's the the thing of, once you're known as somebody that does everything by themselves, once you're sort of a DIY person, then you really do become that one person show. I wish that I did a better job in terms of connection. I wish that others that I had met and worked with and all that, I wish they were nicer. But look, I do end up doing a lot on my own, and I look after myself. Okay, I think that's about it. I am still working through this. It was a very severe situation that I was in. I kind of regret in a way that, I don't know, it's just like certain things I've said, it doesn't quite get through. Well, I regret that it's taken up so much mental energy for me. I didn't really realize how much all of that would impact my life. That I was involved with media at one time, and social media as well. Both have had a very profound impact on my life. And, it's one of these things, I wake up every day and I'm exposed to media because it's communications. And like any form of entertainment or people sharing information, it's really about making connection. And that's something that I regret that I really just haven't done a good job at making connection. Doesn't go as planned. For me, it doesn't work out. I know the thing with all of it is that, well, people are going to take away from me what they're going to. Believe me, I know the opinions, the beliefs, the thoughts that people have of me and my experiences, in that, it's like, why can't he just, get on with it? And it's like, well, the way that life is, sometimes it is unfair. You don't have control over everything, and you can try your best. You can do your heart, you can work really hard at something, and yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. It's a very difficult subject. And that's why I'm on this healing journey with it. Losing a job and just the whole thing, watching all of that dissolve in front of me. Yes, it's traumatic. It's loss and grief. It's constantly right in my face. If it's not something that's part of your experience, if someone else's experience, I can't really convince them of it. I can only really just share what I'm going through, acknowledging the areas where I screwed up. I could have done better. I wish I had made stronger decisions. There were times I had really poor judgment and things that I just shouldn't have even been involved in, and I can beat myself up and go through all the criticisms and the blaming and really out of this whole thing. And it's so difficult to talk about. The subject matter is difficult to talk about, but it's also really the wider scope of the issue. Again, it's systemic. These are systemic issues within media industries. All I can do is bring awareness at this time. Really, I just try to carry on, take my medication, I go to therapy, and I see my doctor, and I talk things out with my support system, and I do have resources, etc., etc. It's just that, yeah, the truth is it's been a very difficult situation, and that's something that happened, and that's the way it is. So that's my update is, in short, really, in a nutshell, I know this is running way too long. It's still pretty much the exact same. I just don't hear from people, I guess, in a way that feels authentic, genuine, sincere for me. Not that every interaction I have to have is, supposed to be that way, but I think it's certainly obvious that I'm really not making connection. I'm really trying my damnedest to make it work. I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you so much for listening to this. If you did, probably not. People are only listening to me for like 30 seconds at most anyways. And it's like, well, I guess it's more for me than anyone else in some regard, because I get to see where I was in my process and my healing, and this is where I am on the media stuff. It's not like a static thing, it's complex, and I think I'm always going to have a bit of a sore spot when it comes to the subject for a number of reasons, but I don't want that to spoil the parts of it I do enjoy. Still keeping that passion and sense of fun. It's like a Black Mirror episode. It's the stuff I've been to. It's a waking technological nightmare. It has been. I mean, this is hell. I don't enjoy this. And I've been accused of that before too. I am telling you the experience. And on that note, I'm going to end it there. Yes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm working on myself, trying to piece my life together, and hopefully, not living Groundhog Day every day and feeling so ostracized in the place I just so happen to live. All right, that's it. Take care, be well, bye for now.